Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the October 9th regular and workshop meeting of your Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect the residents of Western Springs, please rise with us and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have the roll call?
Trustee Hansen.
Here.
Trustee Timmick.
Here.
Trustee Allen.
Here.
Trustee Rudolph.
Here.
Trustee Sifferman.
Here.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Here.
President Gallagher.
Thank you. You have before you tonight's agenda. Does any trustee have any additions or deletions to that agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to that portion of our meeting for citizen comments. This is where we open up the meeting to the public so that you may address the board. Does anyone wish to address the board this evening? No? Moving on, we have a happy event. Chief Buds.
Testing. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
President Gallagher and trustees. Tonight's my privilege and honor to introduce our newest police officer who will be formally sworn in this evening. I'm proud to introduce to my right, Officer Bill Romano and his lovely wife, Carrie. Officer Romano received his Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Science, majoring in psychology from Benedictine University in Lisle. On September 30th, he graduated from the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy after completing 14 weeks of comprehensive law enforcement training. During the graduation ceremony, Bill was formally recognized as the recipient of the Academy's prestigious Firearms Proficiency Award, which I asked Bill to bring tonight because we're very proud of him, just to show you of the meaning of this award. He, in essence, had the best firearms score of his class of 70 recruits. And to my knowledge, it's the first time anybody in your recruit from Western Springs has ever achieved this award. So we are very proud of him, and it was worthwhile mentioning it here tonight.
Absolutely.
He is currently participating in our comprehensive field training program, week number 2, I believe. A brief side note on Bill's background and ties to the village, which I will mention his parents, Pat and William, who are here with us tonight. They were the former owners of the Spaghetti Bowl that used to be on Hillgrove Avenue. And whether Bill wants me to say it or not, he was actually an employee of that for a number of years.
That's why I moved here.
Yeah. Several of us missed that establishment. That was so I figured everybody would like to know that. At this time, I would like to also introduce members of my staff that are here this evening. Field Training Program Training Coordinator Sergeant Joe Rourke, Sergeant LaChurco, OIC Mike Belcastro, Officer Vince Gismondi, and also joining us tonight are our 3 police and fire commissioners that were so kind to take the time out of their night to come in. Chair Marcia Buell, who's here tonight, and Commissioner Maragos and Commissioner Janet Dahl are also here. Thank you for coming. They, as you know, they play a pivotal role in the selection process of officers from start to finish. So I'm very grateful for them to be here tonight. Thank you. And Officer Casey Church, too. I can't forget him. He's off to our left here. Wearing many hats right now. On behalf of the entire department and village, I would like to congratulate Officer Romano and welcome him to the Western Springs Police Department. I wish Bill all the best and continued success with his law enforcement career. I'd also like to present Bill with his official certificate from the state of Illinois, the Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, which he was eagerly waiting. Proof that he passed the exam on the last day of the class. Again, congratulations on achieving that with the Academy. And at this time, may I have Clerk Fitzgerald come on down here to administer the formal oath of office. And Bill's wife, Carrie, has so graciously volunteered to pin his star onto him before we commence the oath, if you will. Thank you. Nicely done.
All right, we'll have you stand on this side. We'll make this a nice group picture. Okay. Okay. Raise your right hand.
I, Bill Romano,
Having been appointed to the office of
having been appointed to the office of
probationary police officer
probationary police officer
in the village of Western Springs,
in the village of Western Springs,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the municipal code of the village of Western Springs,
and the municipal code of the village of Western Springs,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of probationary
of the office of probationary police
police officer
officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And today I have my father, Bill Romano, and my mom, Patricia Romano. Then my wife, Carrie, and one of my daughters, Olivia Grace. And my one daughter couldn't be here today. She's has a fever and she's sick today. But her name's Alexa. So I just wanted to thank my family for the support, and then my family for their continued support, for being with me. And then to the village of Western Springs and to the police department, I want to thank you for believing in me and hiring me to do this career that I wanted to do. Thank you.
Officer Romano, welcome. As you start your career, we wish you much success. You've already had success. We'll all be a little more careful with such a sharpshooter on the force. But we hope you'll be safe, and thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll let the police officers exit. Next, we have another happy event, the recognition of Captain Lichtenauer. Our Chief Kenny.
Do you want me to come up and I certainly can. He's a little busy right now.
Thank you. I thought it would be appropriate.
Always glad to do it. Captain Lichtenauer is obviously our public education officer, and tonight is our open house, so this is like planning a wedding annually. And Chuck, that's how he looks after it. We did nominate him through the Illinois Fire Safety Alliance for the Life Safety Achievement Award, which recognizes those who are involved in multiple programs to protect the community. And that's certainly the definition of Captain Lichtenauer. Everything from block parties to all the curriculums and all the grammar schools to all the programs that we do at the firehouse, and then culmination of the open house. So he will be recognized at that luncheon coming up this month, and we're extremely proud of him. The number of hours that he dedicates, that he's not compensated for, and the development that he does to keep our young folks safe. And as you know from all having kids, those are the best messengers. If you get the message to them, they go home and make life a little miserable for the adults to make sure that your house is safe. So we're very, very proud of Chuck, and we will bring him back at another meeting and have him recognized formally. But thank you for bringing that up. It's a big deal. It's a
Thank
big
you.
deal. Thank you.
And please convey our congratulations to him. It's wonderful to have such a dedicated serviceman in our department, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the workshop portion of our meeting. We'll consider the agenda items for each committee. First committee is Public Works and Water. Trustee Allen.
Thank you, President Gallagher. In your packet was the capital project summary. Those projects have, we've talked about them in previous meetings. For the most part, they're progressing on schedule and in budget. We talked about the Ridgewood Oaks Basin project is going to be deferred until 2018 due to some concrete debris found in the spot where the likely retaining wall would go. But the other projects are moving along, and so if there are no questions with that, I'll give a quick update on Rose and Garden. On October 12th and Director Super can kind of fill in the details. They are going to have a meeting with the residents impacted to kind of go over some of the information, timing, costs, and things like that. But I wasn't sure exactly where the location is and the time and so forth. So could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, that'll be 7 p.m. downstairs in the all-purpose room at Village Hall.
Okay,
Thank
got
you.
it. 7 p.m. here downstairs. And that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Trustee Allen.
Thank you.
Moving on to Properties and Recreation Committee, Trustee Hansen.
Thank you, President Gallagher. First item on the agenda is the capital summary report, and again, I also will be brief on that. That mainly concerns the East Train platform, and we will be discussing in a few minutes a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a change order to the 2017 construction contract entered into between the Village of Western Springs and the Illinois Department of Transportation with Passion Construction, S.N. Nielsen and Associates LLC, for this improvement project. And as we discussed at our last meeting, due to delays at the start of the project, the contractor and IDOT have requested a change order not to exceed $25,000 so that overtime work can be undertaken on Saturdays to get this project closer to completion before the cold weather sets in, if it ever does come. So that's basically kind of those two items on the agenda, A and B. We will discuss that. Director Super, do you have anything to add to that? It's moving along, I know, but.
Yeah, the only other kind of item that's outstanding, not related to what we're going to discuss in a few minutes, is just the Cook County permit. We're still waiting on the Cook County permit for some of the work that has to occur on Wolf Road. We did make some significant progress with that last week, where we got preliminary information approved, and the contractor then did submit their bond and insurance to Cook County, I believe last Thursday. We're just waiting for Cook County now, once again, to turn that stuff back around to us. I know there was a call and some communications going on today with Cook County, but we haven't heard back from them yet. So we're hoping to get that wrapped up here ASAP and get the work going on in that Wolf Road right away.
And there's other things they can do while we wait for that permitting?
Oh yeah, there's still significant work they have to do in the BN right of way, especially behind the retaining walls and in that area that they're working on.
Okay. Thank you.
So that basically also covers agenda item 2B, because that was the resolution. Agenda item C is the resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a polystyrene foam collection agreement between the Village of Western Springs. And this came about because the First Congregational Church approached the General Government Committee about this, and they would like, the First Congregational Church suggested that we do a styrofoam container collecting so that they are not going to landfills. So Daisy Chavez, who's our village intern, did some research, and she found that DART, I think it's called DART Care LLC, would be willing to manage this the collection of the polystyrene styrofoam food containers. Of course, we would like residents to rinse them out before they bring them. So on the first Saturday of the month at Grand Avenue Community Center, there will be a container provided by Republic, which is our garbage service. We'll provide a container, and First Congregational will provide someone to oversee the collection. And there's no cost to the village. It's a 6-month contract, and then with a 1-year renewal. And DART is required to carry all the applicable workers' compensation, liability, and property damage insurance. If either party decides to terminate the agreement, there must be a 30-day written notice. And if DART decides to terminate the agreement, they must pick up any remaining styrofoam materials that are there before they can discontinue the services. I do want to make a note, though, too, that packing peanuts will not be collected at this location, but if you want to bring packing peanuts in another type of bag, preferably the blue recycle bags that we received from the village, the packing peanuts will then be delivered to Pack Wrap and Send in Western Springs. I guess they take those, but they will not be part of this collection by DART Care LLC. And I believe that concludes my report. Are there any questions about that?
Or anything else? Any questions about, I know we had some questions about the East Train platform last time.
Do we discuss this at the special meetings portion, or do we discuss it now?
Well, I think we can discuss it now during our workshop.
And I know last month there were several questions about it, and my personal opinion is we're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. You know, if we don't pass the change order and we decide no, that we're just going to stick with the time frame, we run into issues possibly related to cold weather setting in, and you know, you have to protect what the work that's been done. So, and we also would like to get those parking spaces back in service, and we cannot do that while they're still, you know, while it's under construction type of thing. So I don't like the idea that really due to no fault of our own, our village has to pay more money, but as I say, I think we're kind of stuck. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I certainly don't mean to tell anyone, you know.
Well,
I did read through the materials that I think Director Super put together, and it was also similarly my position that I think we really don't have much of an alternative. I mean, if you want to be prudent, it is money now, but I think there was a nice thing that the director put in there about maybe a sense of the villagers will have the parking spaces back, and aesthetically it may be more pleasing to get this job done now, if we can, if the rain holds up.
Right, and there are certain costs associated with, you know, shutting down and sheltering or something and then reopening again and everything. So I think it probably is the prudent thing to do now to go ahead and allow this and hope that the weather continues to be as wonderful it has been.
With the additional explanation, I'm comfortable moving ahead as well.
I remain supportive of moving ahead with this. I think it's important to show progress and show that we're moving ahead toward the completion of this project, and I continue to support the advanced costs associated with the change order.
So I had some questions though. What in here there was some talk about heavy equipment operations, and what waiver are they asking for in terms of the time that they would be allowed to do construction?
The hours?
The hours, the
Yeah.
construction hours. Do you want to answer that?
Yes, essentially it's the extended hours into the evening, the 2 additional hours in the evening, and then an earlier start time on Saturdays. Our current code would restrict start time to 9 a.m. They're looking to start before that.
How early before that?
I think it was
Typically 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
7:30, I thought it was said.
Between 7 and 7:30.
Okay.
People will show up and they'll grease machines and things like that.
So did anyone ask the downtown businesses about this?
No.
No, I can answer that. Not specifically. I think if they were asked, they would say extend the hours as much as needed to get it completed. There haven't been that many complaints, but there's been a few that are very concerned, depending on where they're located.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you don't think they're going to have a problem with the extended hours given what we're trying to do?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And then I wasn't clear exactly what we're getting for the accelerated schedule. It talks about applying these 30 working days, and I'm reading from the Bennis, your email, Jeff, or your letter, sorry. A stone veneer on the north wall, north platform pavers, nor all of the north sidewalk would be in place. So we're getting all of that with the accelerated schedule?
Yes, and it needs to be clear that if the accelerated schedule doesn't happen, their current schedule shows them extending out and not completing the north platform. So the north platform, brick pavers and veneer, current schedule would not be completed this year.
Okay, but with the accelerated, the north and the south platform are going to be?
Yes, the south will get completed regardless of this overtime work that they're proposing. The south will get completed under normal working hours and normal circumstances. It's the north side that is bearing most of the delays as it relates to the construction.
And how confident are we that they're going to get it done?
If you can predict the weather, I'll show you how much confidence.
Well,
it's weather dependent, and so if it rains for 2 weeks in the next 2 weeks, I would say, I wouldn't have a lot of confidence. If the weather stays similar to what it's been like, I would say that I'm very confident, in excess of 90% confident.
Okay. Their accelerated schedule had, it looks like them starting the overtime hours last week. Did that happen?
No, they have not started overtime hours yet. We're waiting for approval.
Okay, well, I'm just looking on, it looks like the week ending 10/8, they were here, they had scheduled for a Saturday.
Right.
But we didn't do that, so.
Right,
we're okay.
I believe that's why we're voting tonight
Okay.
instead of 2 weeks from now.
And then, and Director Super, help me on just this other one. It looks like on their accelerated, they are scheduled to do some work in November.
Correct.
Is that allowed under IDOT?
Yeah, they would, again, it would all be weather dependent. You'd have to have certain plants still open. If the plants are closed due to weather, so if the concrete or asphalt plants closed due to weather conditions, they wouldn't be able to complete some of that work. But if those plants are still open, that work can continue on.
No, I thought it was an IDOT requirement that, or either an IDOT or BNSF, that they couldn't work past November 1st. Was that not?
No, so that's where the current target working days of the existing schedule is targeted for.
Oh, okay. And on the actual resolution we're voting on, is this it, or are there, because it said something that we may have additional change orders?
Currently, I believe we are only voting for this up to $25,000. Change
That's
order
this
number
discussion
one.
tonight.
That
yes.
is this discussion tonight, and that's what we're voting on later on in this meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We did say 2 weeks ago that there could possibly be other change orders as the project progresses, correct?
That's correct.
Do we know of any?
Not at this time.
No, we haven't discussed anything. I mean, the only thing that really is discussed earlier this year, which we approved the engineering for, was those ADA modifications.
Right.
I don't believe the board has seen the actual cost of those modifications come forth yet. We only did the engineering earlier in the summer.
Right, not yet, but we've known that that's coming.
Correct.
Right.
And I guess my last question relates to the one of the whereas clauses in the resolution itself, where it talks about unforeseen circumstances, the project cannot be completed within the project contract price. My understanding is it can be completed in the contract price, but we're choosing to accelerate it to get it done so we don't have these problems over the winter that we've all talked about. So this wording just doesn't seem to be consistent with what we're saying, why we're doing this. And also, I mean, the term unforeseen circumstances, my understanding, the two biggest delays were the late start, which we knew about, and these kind of weird hours that BNSF kind of requires people to work through. So I don't know what other people think about it, but to me, I don't know if I'd want to put in that cannot be completed within the contract price. We're making a decision to accelerate to avoid having the thing in sort of this kind of state of disrepair over the winter, which I understand, but I just didn't, the contract price is still the contract price, and we could still do this. It just, we would bleed until 2018.
Right. Well, not in 2017. Attorney Jerusik could probably speak to that.
Could I touch upon that? Yeah, the language has to remain as is. The change order is defined by statute. The change order resolution tracks the statutory language and the statutory findings and determinations. So that unforeseen circumstance, that language has to be in there. This can be viewed as unforeseen because at the time that the contract was initially let, these events and these circumstances, were not foreseeable, were not on the horizon, and the language about cannot be completed within the contract price. I think it's safe to say that whether you spend the money now and exceed possibly the contract price, or you kick the project into 2018, you're going to incur additional costs, both with winterization and remobilization, that will take you beyond the contract price. So I would prefer that you stay with the language as is, because it tracks exactly what is required to approve a change order.
That's the way I interpreted that is that there was cost one way or the other, so that it would exceed the overall original contract price.
Okay. It's been spread on the record, has it not, what the specific clauses for the delay were?
Yes.
And we went through those, I think pretty thoroughly, isn't it?
And it's safe, and I would say those are unforeseen. It's not unforeseen maybe today looking, back from this perspective, but the change order statute takes you back in time to when you actually approved and signed the contract. Were these things foreseeable then? And arguably they were not.
And so I guess then, does the, what will be left in 2018 that we'll have to do? What's sort of carrying over? Because the project won't be done even on the accelerated, right?
That is correct. Director Super, what will be
You know,
done?
under our ideal situation, if the weather is completely cooperative, you're essentially looking at, if you look at that sheet, as Jeff mentioned, the south platform would be ostensibly complete, and you're looking at basically landscaping, sidewalk, and then some of this, what they call install specialties that would remain into 2018.
So both sides of the platform will be operational throughout November, March, April.
Again, if the weather cooperates, we would be able to get those platforms open for use.
Okay. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. So we'll put those two items, the styrofoam collection and the East Train platform, on the omnibus for tonight's vote. Moving on to general government, Trustee Timmick.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few items to cover this evening. The first one is a resolution approving the regular meeting schedule for 2018. I believe the agenda actually reads 2017, but the detail that's included in the packet does show the schedule for 2018, so fairly straightforward. That's required that we publish those in advance. So that would be on the omnibus for the next meeting.
Okay.
The next one after that is actually related to the release, a resolution releasing certain closed meeting minutes. So as we've closed for executive session and other things in the past, those minutes have been held in confidence. There was a review of those, and there is a decision in here with the resolution to potentially release some minutes and also keep some confidential. And the detail there, again, which meetings were covered, was in the packet detail. So if there's any questions, either I or Attorney Teresa could cover that. Okay. And then the last one, I believe I had given an update on this a few meetings ago, but this is around an ordinance amending the liquor control for the village, and it's specific at this time to supporting some changes that Salerno's is looking to add to their restaurant. One would be a jukebox system, and the other one is a golden tee, essentially a video game for golf. That they would like to put into the restaurant there. The language for the ordinance has been written in such a way that it's clear that these sort of things would be approved, but this is not any way then an entryway for video gaming or poker or anything like that. So it's very clear that it would be for these sorts of amusement devices, and payouts and things like that would not be allowed. So again, fairly straightforward. Any questions?
The pool hall, I saw the proposal strikes the language allowing pool tables. To me, that kind of still denotes a bar, and I thought we were trying to kind of get away from that concept, so I wasn't sure if that made sense to delete that language, especially if they're not asking for a pool table to be in their establishment.
Well, we still have the standard of number of drinks served per, dining. It's still going to be a dining establishment first and serving drinks second. They aren't asking for it, so I guess it's a minor detail, but why limit us in the future if somebody does ask for a pool table, and.
Well, I just think it's an image thing. I mean, I think we put that in there so we would try to protect the image that, originally what we said is these would be restaurants with having the ability to serve alcohol, and moving to more of a pool hall type concept kind of denotes something a little different, at least to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right.
I think the issue there would be is a pool hall would take up so much square footage, and that and a restaurant that would be required would be, I think, cost prohibitive here in the village.
Well, but that argues to not change the language then, right?
Well, the language says pool table, right? Or does it?
It strikes it out.
It says no billiards and or pool tables, and typically when you see those in either a restaurant or a bar or a kind of a dedicated pool hall, they're typically pay as you go. Either they're actually coin operated where you put coins in, or you have to pay at the bar. And one way to look at this is we're replacing no billiards and pool tables. We're just changing that over to regulate mechanical amusement devices. And so if somebody came in with a pool table that they were going to not charge for use, they'd be able to have it. If they're going to want to have a pool table that's going to, you have to pay as you play, or use coins to activate it, it would be covered under the amusement game devices. So it would be regulated the same way as a Golden Tee video game or one of the other amusement devices. There's a limitation on the number that they could have in an establishment. They'd have to have it licensed, and they'd have to regulate it and operate it under the amusement device ordinance, which we have on the books in our business regulations.
But so the Golden Tee is like a game that people pay money to play, correct?
Yeah, it's like a golf video game. It's like a pinball machine, those type of things.
There's actually a photo of it in the
I saw it.
packet.
I
Yeah.
saw that and everything.
And
But I
there's
guess
there's no payout on it. That's the other key thing.
well, none to the person, but somebody takes that money out of the machine at the end of the night or the end of the week or whatever.
Well, yeah.
Do they pay taxes on that then to the village? Like, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's licensed.
So it's all cash, though.
licensed. We would get license fees for the machine.
I see.
And then there is a component that should be reported to the state, and we should get a share of that state revenue.
Okay, thank you.
And Director Scott, do we know their mix of food versus alcohol?
I don't know the exact numbers. I mean, the code dictates that amount, and then by seating as well. And they meet that since it's not really changed since the first inception of the restaurant, that location.
But they are in compliance.
Oh,
I think
they're
it was like
compliant.
60-40 split.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So one other thing I failed to mention as well too, though, the General Government Committee did review this, and it will go to the Liquor Commission on the 19th, so prior to the vote. So it'll have one additional review.
Okay.
But it's your committee's recommendation that we move forward with the ordinance?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Unless there's anything else, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Timmick. Moving on to Public Health and Safety, Trustee Sifferman.
Thank you, President Gallagher. A few items that I'd like to report following our meeting on the 6th of October. First of all, the police department has presented a written report of their efforts during Illinois Rail Safety Week. A report that includes their enforcement efforts as well as their educational efforts. We learned that there were 13 warnings that were issued during that week to pedestrians and travelers, and 3 tickets were issued for disobedience to signals indicating the approach of trains. And then a number of educational efforts that were advanced by members of the police department in their life-saving presentations, as well as internet-based announcements and flyers being distributed, particularly the efforts at Lyons Township High School through the officer that's stationed at the high school. So we're very proud of the efforts that the police department took to keep our village and residents and visitors safe, particularly in the context of a tragic occurrence just west on the line in Clarendon Hills, where the safety efforts perhaps could have saved the life of an individual who met a tragic death on the rail during Rail Safety Week. We're also cognizant of the special time of the year where preparations for the Halloween trick-or-treaters are being advanced by the police department through their recommended guidelines for safe traffic for our trick-or-treaters, including a list of safety tips that will be placed on the website that include elements of parental vigilance as well as driver's vigilance. recommendations regarding the type of apparel the trick-or-treaters should wear that includes light colors and perhaps even some reflective clothing. But also some do's and don'ts, and one of the don'ts is not for trick-or-treaters not to approach homes in the evening that do not have lights on the front porch. The final item that was presented for our review by the fire department was a request to declare surplus equipment. Their 2006 Crown Victoria that has over 50,000 miles and a value of $3,600 is viewed as being not as efficient in operation in a safe capacity, and it can be replaced with a current city or village vehicle that the fire prevention unit can use. So we'll be asking that this be advanced for the full board consideration to declare this vehicle as surplus equipment at our next full meeting.
Great.
That completes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Sifferman. We'll put that on the omnibus for our next meeting. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. Several items that the Finance Committee addressed during our recent meeting on September 28th. The first two are with respect to the Thomas Ford Library, and I see we have Director Bodies here and several of the trustees. Thank you for joining us tonight. Just an update on the referendum. We are proceeding as planned with the proposal for the March election to have the $2 million referendum on the ballot at that point. We are still, according to Attorney Jerusik, working through a few of the details, talking with bond counsel, but otherwise moving ahead with that. The other item is also with respect to the library tax levy, that the library has requested that the 2017 levy include the 0.02% for the maintenance, repair, and alterations of the library buildings and equipment. And as you'll note in the memo from Director Turi, this is an annual request, and the levy has been extended since 1985 and allowed under the Illinois library law, and that was approved unanimously by the library board. But again, with our friends here, if there are any questions regarding either of those two items.
Well, I just had one for the library. Have they, and since they're here, have you guys talked yet about your communication plan to the residents? Because I did have one or two ask me about how they'll get more information on, what they'll see, prior to March.
Yes, we're having,
Will you come up? I'm sorry. You have to use
Thank
the
you.
microphone so that the people at home can hear you.
Yes. Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we are preparing a mailing that will go out to every household, and we'll also be holding a series of open houses to answer questions for the residents.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next is the audit proposal. The Sikich firm, if I'm pronouncing that correct, has put in a proposal for a renewal for a new 3-year agreement for auditing services. The full proposal was in your packet for your review, and that proposal covers fiscal year 2017 through 19, and the Finance Committee recommends approving that particular proposal. Any questions on that? Okay. Next is the budget amendment resolution. There were several in your packet, and I won't go into all the details of each one, but the first one from Director Supert, of which there were quite a few, has to do with the well number 3 and the electrical. We are still working with IRMA regarding potential reimbursement, but in the meantime, we do require a change order for the cost of $87,757. The next item has to do with budget transfers as they relate to tree replacement and tree trimming. Over the last several years, we've had to deal with the emerald ash borer, as many of you know, but I was pleased to read that it looks like we're at a turning point and that the treatment program has been successful, so we will look forward to improvements going forward, I hope. There was a request from D101 regarding their facility, and in particular with respect to the sidewalks around some of their facilities, and they were requesting some replacement there. About 25 of those need replacement, and that work is expected to take place this month. The next was a budget amendment to cover engineering costs associated with the review and interaction with the Illinois Tollway I-294 redevelopment project. So that work has included engineering review, correspondence, et cetera. In addition, there's a request for $3,000 for repairs for a street light that was hit by a cement truck earlier this year, and is also one where we are coordinating with the truck driver's insurance. And finally, requests for 3 amendments from Director Baer regarding administrative costs for temporary staff during the village manager transition, separation benefits as a result of eligible benefits for senior and 1 probationary employee, and finally, for our village manager's retirement reception, what was also, though, offset by revenue from donations. So those are the budget amendment requests. Any questions? All right. Barry?
Of course.
Oh,
You'd be disappointed without one. But by the way, that was a very good overview. Just one question for Jeff on the I-294. Is the $9,500, is that it for 2017? And since the village is in the middle of their 2018 budget, do we have an estimate of what will be needed for 2018?
No, that's not it for 2017. There are more meetings scheduled. And as far as 2018 goes, I don't know what their meeting schedule is and how often we're going to have to deal with the various issues that the tollway may bring forward.
But we will budget at least some sort of placeholder for it?
Yeah, we will have some funds in our general engineering to account for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee John. Okay, let's see. Last but not least, the police pension fund. Just a quick update on that regarding fund choice questions that came up during our last meeting. There is a pension fund board meeting on the 8th at 7 p.m. The board itself is autonomous. We can ask questions and provide information, but just an update, and we reviewed that at our last meeting in terms of kind of what is our extent of our authority. So any other questions about that? Is that clear to everybody? And I have no update on the fire pension.
Okay.
And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rudolph. Finally, last but not least, Planning and Zoning Committee, Trustee Terrell.
Thank you, President Gallagher. We have 2 ordinances for our discussion tonight. Both of them are relatively minor. The first, very minor ordinance, there's amendments that are being proposed to the fire suppression system. There's 2 code amendments to the municipal code regulating automatic fire suppression systems sprinklers. The first one replaces the term pull stations with manual fire alarm system in the code. That's just a kind of a cleanup. We thought was a little more descriptive. The second fairly minor amendment is to prohibit separations of firewalls to get out of the requirement of the 2,500 square foot trigger for the installation of fire suppression systems. Apparently there haven't been any in our village yet, but it's possible. You have to have a sprinkler if it's 2,500 square feet on the floor, but it's possible that somebody could come in and do some construction or remodeling and put up a wall and avoid that. So this language would clean up and prohibit that sort of activity from being done. And that's what I've had for the fire suppression. The other ordinance we have here is that there are minor modifications to Foxford, and we have a witness here that I think will go over the minor changes that are being suggested to the. It's a second revised petition that was put forth in August. So did you want to address us with what those were, or am I just reading them into the record? Or?
No.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Farland with Foxford Development, Foxford Station. And Mark, if you could also correct for the record, we're also just finally reviewing the building elevations, the final building elevations. Our original ordinance approving required us to come back and just verify that we're in substantial compliance with the building elevations as well, correct?
Correct, that's part of what the ordinance listed.
That's
Yes.
part of what the ordinance listed. Okay, so that includes that as well. Largely, we are exactly what we previously had presented. We have utilize a marketing fly around with our marketing efforts that articulate pretty well what the exterior of the building looks like and what its the working drawings, construction drawings show. There are two subtle little changes. One, it was at the request of our original approval, was to add some detail at the fourth floor roof line along the Wolf and Burlington elevations of the building, which we have added that on the working drawings. The other was a modification to the east terrace area to go from a terrace that would be on the roof of the garage to raise that up a bit and have a deck come out at the second floor elevation rather than walking down from the second floor onto that roof terrace. So those are really the two changes. I also brought with the exterior building colors that were previously approved, just for your reference. So they're over here. This is the brick color, the stone color, the stucco color, and then this is a window here that shows, it's a miniature window, but a real window that shows what the exterior windows on the residential portion of the building look like. The storefront windows in the commercial are the same color, but they aren't a window manufacturer. They're a storefront style that is glass is brought in with a frame and built in place. But this has remained exactly the same as what was originally approved. So there's no change there. With that, Marty, do you think the next would be to show that fly around? Probably many of you have maybe seen this before, but it's the most current view of what the building looks like. And I think one remaining thing that we want to finish working up with staff subsequent to this meeting is the final landscaping. The village is working with Cook County Department of Transportation to get some approval to put some planters along Wolf along our frontage. That hasn't been gotten yet, so that would be part of our landscaping plans that we're asking that we finalize that with staff going forward here.
And then there's also changes to lighting too, right? That's under review right now by...
Changes to lighting.
There's the lighting. There was a reduction in lighting that's referenced in the ordinance that you just received, and that was based on the number of units being reduced, which is a good thing. Balconies that had lighting on them have been cut down dramatically. The remainder of the lighting is something Engineer Ziegler is reviewing for lighting in the alley to make sure that it's adequate and then also not a nuisance in any way. And then also some lighting that's in the front of the building with accent lighting. And there was some original specs approved, but then since then, like other elements, they're revisited.
We refined the exact fixture. When we originally got approved, we didn't know exactly the fixture we were going to use, so now we have the exact fixture specified.
And the focus there is on making sure there's not glare to people that are walking by or driving by, and then it's adequately lighted and supplements any of the street lighting that's there.
John, I apologize. You may have already answered this in the previous meeting, but by the way, I like the architectural designs you did on the roof line. I thought those were nice. Are the windows, will they have like extra soundproofing since it's by the railroad?
The windows along the Burlington elevation and the barrel or rotunda on the front are laminated glass that provide additional soundproofing for trains.
I'm sorry, could you hear your
Okay, yeah, I will.
And you said that you called that a miniature window. Would the actual windows be larger?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. This is the actual window. They're very the elevation, almost all the windows in the building on the residential are almost always the same size, and each bay of the window is 3 foot wide by 5.5 feet tall. So that's consistent all the way around the building. This one is probably, half that.
Okay.
And when do you expect the first residents to move in?
Probably winter of early 2019.
And how many units have been sold? Do you know?
8 of the 28 have been sold, are under contract. And the construction status right now, you've probably seen a lot of people out there. We're working on the foundation. We expect to largely be finished with that by the end of the month, by the end of October. And we'll have a mason contractor mobilizing out there probably the middle of this month to start with some block. And then in December, the precast deck of the first floor ceiling, second floor will begin.
And no retail units have been spoken for or anything? Or?
Nothing yet, no. But we have inquiries about when it would be delivered. We've had inquiries by a number of people, but we haven't seriously marketed yet because we know that it needs to get further along before anybody will really consider it.
You would rent the other 18 condominiums and then a rent-to-own?
No, they're for sale as well, and they're actively being marketed, the other 20.
What if they're not sold? You said winter of 2019?
Winter of 2019 is when the first occupancy would be ready.
Would you have those being vacant, the ones that were unsold?
We hope not. But we hope not. But we're a firm believer in that some vertical construction needs to happen, and then the real interest starts to kick in. But the interest level have been in the larger units thus far, which has surprised us a bit. But we have every day we get another inquiry.
So the elevation has not changed with the coping?
No, nothing in the elevation, just a detail at the top.
Okay.
The coping is what, is it a strip or an overhang?
No, it's just at the top of the wall, at the fourth floor. The fourth floor goes up and then becomes roof. It's just a detail along there that dressed it up. Here, well, yeah, you can see not. Look, oh, you almost had it. Looks like it started. Here we go. Boy, we've played this thing, 3 times before in meetings here, and and it worked, yeah.
It's like a crown molding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a crown molding. So, Mr. McFarland, I think I spoke with Marty earlier today. My big issue with these changes is the deck. I think the deck needs to be larger for that size. For 28 condominiums, it's 25 by 25. People will, especially if you're marketing towards retirees, they'll want to bring their family over, and they'll need a space, at least in the warm months, to have everybody congregate, I think. While that's probably something that can be worked on, I don't want to hold progress up here, but
right. The deck, if I could just address the deck is actually, I double-checked it, it's 30 by 25, not 25 by 25, and it's the same size as what the terrace was before. It's just raised up.
Although the terrace, it had the green.
But those green areas weren't habitable areas. They were just green to look nice. So the size has not changed. It's just been brought up because in the event of the terrace, we would either have to do an elevator to get down or a switchback ramp to get down there. And we felt that if people had to either walk downstairs or take an elevator or walk down a ramp, that they wouldn't use it. So that's why we brought it up to the second floor, so you can be on the second floor hallway and just walk out onto this deck.
I understand that, but even visually, I think if you go out there with the first iteration that you had where you say it wasn't usable, but it was all on one level, and it seems to me you could certainly walk between the planter boxes or whatever.
No, it wasn't designed to walk. There was a rail around that deck.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a rail around that original terrace, so it was not at all designed for expansive use out there. It was simply designed for that 25 by 30 foot area. And I'll also remind you that every condo unit has its own outdoor space as well, whether it's a terrace or a balcony. And
how large is that space?
It varies. I mean, the largest one is 25 by 25 on the top floor. There's others that are 12 by 10 on the corners on the top floor.
But that's kind of to my point too, because you have one condo unit with a 25 by 25 terrace, and then a deck that's a little bit larger for the entire building.
Right, but it's not designed for the entire building to have, a building-wide party on. It's designed for residents of the building to use periodically, or if somebody wanted to have a personal or individual gathering out there, they could make arrangements to reserve the terrace. We just don't feel that a big terrace is going to be used because everybody has their own outdoor space.
Well, that was also actually something that had come up during the initial review. We received feedback from the residents on, was it Johnson right there, about having too large of a party deck and potentially being a noise issue. And that was what led, I think, to some of the size and some of the sound barrier and things that went up around that.
Right. Yeah. Originally, it was a larger terrace area out there when we had 52 rental apartments. But when we dropped it to 28 condominium ownership building, we reduced the terrace down to the 25 by 30.
Well, John, is there an industry standard? I mean, you've gone from 52 to half the number.
Right.
And your original terrace was 90 by 50, and this one's 25 by 30. Are there something that's comparable within the industry? That's the efficient.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an industry standard, but it was 52 units that very few had any of their own outdoor space. Where now we have 28 where every one of them have some outdoor space. And then this is a community or building-wide, a little larger outdoor space if somebody has a few more people that are visiting and they want to go down there. But it's not designed to be, having outdoor yoga classes or nighttime parties or music or anything like that. It's just purely an outdoor space that if somebody wants to use during the day, or residents have some guests and they want to sit out there. But our market that are buying this are not younger renters. It's empty nester. Typically just single or husband and wife or what have you that are occupying. It's not families that are occupying this. That's not to say that grandkids couldn't come over and visit, but we're just simply raising up higher the space that was previously approved. Okay, we're not shrinking the space that was previously approved.
So following up on President Gallagher's comments, so aesthetically it does look a little odd, and when you do consider the planters, the leftover usable space, I mean, how functional is it really?
Well, it's 25 by 30. I mean, 25 by 30 is, it's from me to that, it's a big deck.
But you're ringing it though with the planters, which we need for the sound deadening. But I mean, so what's
well, and screening, screening, and the other terrace that was down below had screening around it as well.
Yeah. John, do you envision that there'd be cooking out there, or will there be cooking on the individual balconies, like grills? Or
yes, on some of the yes, there would be a grill allowed on the terraces. On the units that have terraces, there would be a grill allowed. I don't think a grill. Well, you could probably grill on the hanging balcony as well. The hanging balconies are 6 by 10.
So that wouldn't be a fire violation or anything like that.
Could be.
We'd have to go back.
You're right.
And there is no room in
We
the...
have to go back and review that, because sometimes that is prohibited.
Mhm.
We haven't had that discussion yet.
There's no room, though, designated in the building for, you know, like a party room type of thing or
Common
anything?
area.
Common area?
No,
No.
no,
Mhm.
no.
This would be it, really.
Yeah, this is the extent of the amenity, but really the amenity at this property is downtown Western Springs. I mean, you walk out, you have a gym, you have restaurants that offer, you know, gathering space to get together. I mean, that's the beauty of this location, is that you have everything at your footsteps in the downtown area.
I don't know, it's such a beautiful building, and yet that deck just looks like it's kind of been thrown on, to tell you the truth. I understand about bringing it up to the second floor level, and that makes perfect sense. I think there are things we could do to make it more usable and more serviceable and prettier at the same time, you know. I talked to Marty too briefly about whether we could, with that lower level, that would be either concrete, I believe, or pavers, you said, you know, whether we could put in maybe plants that would help absorb rainwater when we get some of these more torrential rain events. And I know you have that
Yeah, we've
storage.
spent
I
literally
understand
hundreds of
that.
thousands of dollars on a storm detention basin underneath that building.
I understand that.
That collects it, and, you know, there's no access down to that roof to maintain a green roof.
Oh, there's no access?
No, there's no stairs going down to that. It's just,
But it does have plantings around the perimeter, if I remember correctly. The new one has, yeah. Is there plantings there, Ed?
It does show around the edge.
Yeah.
yeah, we did show some plantings, and they may be there, but we're asking that once we get that section of the building built and that deck on there, that we work with staff to appropriately screen that. We can sit here and contemplate how it should be screened and look at it from up here and say, oh, it doesn't look right, but nobody's ever going to see it from up here.
True.
Okay, only people are going to see it are 6 feet walking around you know, you're looking up at it, and the sight lines, we want to be able to screen the sight lines and not just screen because it looked like there should be screening from looking at it from up in the sky.
Okay. But also the people using the deck will see it, and also the people with east-facing windows will also see it. So,
Yeah, and that's why there's screening around the perimeter of the deck, for sure. That's exactly why it's there.
okay. But then in the first one, you had the 25 by 30, but the screening was outside that. Now the screening is within that 25 by 30. So, for practical.
I thought what was approved before on the terrace had perimeter screening around the 25 by 30.
I don't have it up on my
I mean,
iPad, so Ed, would you know?
the other submittals that I made, Marty, do you?
The original did. The original
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
The revised one, when the stairway was added and the height was dropped, did not. It had the green space, 3 different green spaces around it, like
Right.
small garden.
Right.
Gardens.
Right. And that was just green turf. That wasn't grass up there. It was just green roof to make it aesthetically pleasing to the eye. It wasn't designed to be an entire terrace for you know.
But my point is, that's a 25 by 30 space, right? But the greenery is outside it, correct?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's what I was getting at with the revised design. You're keeping the same size of the terrace, but you're bringing the planters onto the terrace, so the overall terrace usable space shrinks. And the screening for the rest of it is pushed out to the sides, whereas before there was whether it's plantings or if it's just green material, it looked a lot different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty, can you maybe put that on the screen over there?
Sure, these two.
So that they can see.
And, you know, I certainly don't want to hold up this project. The sooner it gets done, the better for all of
Right.
us. But, you know, let's do it once, let's do it right. So.
Right, yeah, so that was well, there's actually been 2 revisions. The top one you see is when it was a 52-unit apartment
Right.
building. The next one was when we lowered that element of the building down and provided that terrace at that roof level. But then upon further investigation of that, found out the ramp requirements and the elevator requirements to get down to it. So we said, well, let's bring that deck area up at the same level so we don't have to do. And I wish we could see the fly around because
It's working.
Oh, it's working now. Oh, okay. There's a third still shot we did too, right, Marnie?
Yeah.
You have that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
You'll see that.
Yeah.
Before the introduction.
So you can see all the individual terraces that each unit has. There's 2 there. There's along Wolf. There's the largest one there on the corner of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's individual terraces there on the south side of the building there
Mm-hmm.
for individual units.
Every unit has a terrace.
Yes.
Where are the terraces for the 3rd floor? I see
They're
one on
the
second floor.
hanging balcony. If you could stop it right there, Matt, that would be great. Great. Okay, so that's the raised up center area that we're talking about. So
It's kind of dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
So every unit has, you know, you can see on the over to the right there, that's a terrace for a 2nd floor unit, and above that unit is a hanging balcony on the 3rd floor, and then up above that, Marty, is a terrace for that unit on the 4th floor.
So go to the left side of the building.
Yes. So that's a terrace right there for that
Right.
4th floor.
And then what's underneath?
There's a hanging balcony right there. And then down on the 2nd floor, there's a terrace right
The
there.
hanging balcony is on the
3rd floor.
south
Above
side of
the
the building, though?
terrace.
No,
Yeah.
that's on the south side of the building,
Okay.
yes.
So, and then this is the deck that President Gallagher is referring to?
Yes. In lieu of the.
I'm just curious, why wouldn't it be a little bit bigger? It just costs? I mean, it just looks kind of.
Well, if it goes wider, then it's going to interfere
with the other
yeah,
building-
other
terraces.
units,
But
right?
What about coming out further this way?
Well, then it gets closer to Johnson
Residents.
Street, and you know, our goal is to keep it, you know, if you recall, it was a step-back process of the building to keep elements of the building off of Johnson. So that's why we don't come out any further with it. I mean, that's going out 30 feet. So it's coming out 30 feet from that element of the building. It's 25 feet wide and 30 feet out.
And if you came out, go ahead, Jeff.
How wide, what is the distance from the face of the building down the very, I want to call it the 1st floor, but I understand it's the 2nd floor, out to the front edge? From there?
Yeah,
out to
I'm
there?
estimating, I think it's that 30 feet again. No, I'm trying to.
50-ish, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I think I'd have to look at the plans, Jeff. I think from the face of that deck to the edge of the building, I think it's 20 feet. Yeah, from there to there is 20 feet.
Sorry.
And then from to the sidewalk, from the face of the building is 9 feet.
John, is there any lighting also for the deck?
Just one light. I have to look at the lighting plan. Usually there are 1 or 2 lights on either side of the door. That's it.
So it's basically just a daytime use?
Right, yeah. It's not designed to be nighttime at all.
What's all the green space underneath the deck to be used
That's
for?
that's a roofing material that's green in color.
So it's not accessible by any of the
No.
inhabitants?
No. I mean, a maintenance person could get down there if need be, but it's not designed for for anybody to, be walking around on it. down
People
there.
on Johnson would,
No,
a lot
right.
of ruckus and
Right.
even though these are
Right.
more sedate individuals are looking at
Right.
Speak for
Right.
yourself.
I guess what I'm trying to understand how this all fits in is it does look like a small deck, and I guess going back to what I asked earlier, you must have other projects of this size, and I'm just with other decks of this size, and do you get complaints saying, why is this so small, we can't use it for a birthday party or whatever it may be, or contrarily, other people saying it's perfect, it's fine, we rarely use it, but it's nice, a nice addition. I'm trying to wonder how functional this is if we're going to keep it just 600 square feet.
These things are rarely used. Rarely used.
And you know that from other projects?
Other previous experience. We had a project downtown on Van Buren that had a rooftop deck. It wasn't at the second floor, but it was a rooftop deck. Hardly used. Rarely used to the point where it just weathered away almost during the process that we were selling the units. They just aren't used that much. A younger crowd might use it some more, might want to be out there at night. That's not what this is. There's no way we're going to get away with people out there hanging out at night. It's just not gonna stand for the folks on Johnson.
It does look like it's a pergola type roof
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
they're-
over there. I mean,
yeah.
so at least some shade, because I
Yes.
think a lot of it is just no shade. People don't like to sit
Yeah.
out when it's too hot.
Mhm.
Is it intended that it's locked up after a certain period of time, or?
Well, it wouldn't be locked. I mean, it would be. I think hours would be posted on it. I mean, there's only 28 units here, so it's not like it's, 300. It's not like on LaGrange and Ogden. It's not that type of a building at all.
Well, the concern would be access to the main building for anybody scaling a wall or getting into.
Oh, it would be locked. Yeah, it's locked. It would be locked. It would be a locked door. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how far off the ground is this, though? I
It's
mean,
about 7 feet. It's about 7 feet up. So that distance you see from the second floor is down. That now, bear in mind, that's how high the whole building that was originally approved. That's how tall it was, and we, in the first iteration, we dropped that whole element of the building down.
Does anybody else have any questions of Mr. McFarland?
That would conclude my report on this, but this ordinance is still being drafted?
Yeah, what you saw today was just a very rough first draft based on the last ordinance that approved some additional modifications to this project in 2016. Staff needs to work through this. Marty, Jeff, I'll need their comments. But once we received this material at the end of last week, I got through this stuff, I put this ordinance together today just to get it in your hands. No expectation to go through it tonight. It'll be modified slightly. We can give you a red line version of what gets changed from what you have today, so you can see what gets updated for approval at the end of the month.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other business? Then we'll move on to consideration of an action on the agenda items, now to our special portion of the meeting for our combined meeting. The omnibus vote. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions, such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request? If not, Trustee Timmick?
Thank you, President Gallagher. I move that the following resolutions as contained on the meeting agenda for October 9th, 2017 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 7, Resolution 17-2402, approving and authorizing the execution of change order number 1 to the 2017 construction contract entered into between the Village of Western Springs and the Illinois Department of Transportation with F.H. Passion, S.N. Nielsen and Associates, LLC, for the East Commuter Platform Improvement Project. Agenda item number 8, Resolution 17-2403, approving and authorizing the execution of a polystyrene foam collection agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Dart Care, LLC, collection site, Grand Avenue Community Center.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Any discussion? Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hansen?
Aye.
Trustee Tennant?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph?
Aye.
Trustee Zimmerman?
Aye.
Trustee Tyrell?
Aye.
And President
President
Gallagher.
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. Moving on to reports. My report, I have several items. First of all, I'd like to thank Trustee Hansen, Trustee Sifferman, and Trustee Timick for joining me in Washington, D.C., as well as Director of Finance Turi and Village Manager Velkme. We were there for the West Central Municipal Conference, Legislative Conference, last week, Tuesday to Thursday. Not only did we meet with other officials and staff from neighboring municipalities, but we also had separate and productive meetings with Congressman Dan Lipinski and senior staff in Senators Durbin and Duckworth's offices. So that was, I think we had a great time meeting face-to-face with these representatives, and I'm glad we went. Also, last Monday, Village Manager Velkme and I met with the Tollway Authority Chairman Bob Schillerstrom and his Chief Operating Officer Kevin Artle to personally express our concerns with regard to the Central Corridor expansion project that is currently in the design phase. The meeting went very well. They were already aware of most of our concerns. They were very receptive, and I'm very happy with the way the meeting progressed, and we will continue to reach out to them as the project moves forward. And finally, I'd like to congratulate our own trustee, Jim Terrell, for starting and finishing the Chicago Marathon. Quite an achievement. He did it in under 4 hours, or in 20 minutes. And he's here walking. So that's quite an achievement. I can't even imagine. Great job, Jim. And that concludes my report. Village Manager Velkme?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Village Attorney Drusik?
No further report tonight.
Thank you. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Good evening.
Yeah, it was good.
So I did begin.
Every other year?
I
When the
know.
WCMC
So that
goes
is-
out.